Captain Lee Jinho walked slowly across the bridge of the human ship Concordia. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor as he moved toward the large window at the front of the ship. Outside in the darkness of space, a massive structure grew bigger and bigger as they flew closer to it. "That's it," he said quietly to himself. Nexus Prime. The space station was enormous, bigger than any city on Earth. Lights flickered across its surface like stars, and ships from different worlds moved around it like insects around a bright lamp. Jinho had seen pictures of it many times, but seeing it with his own eyes made his heart beat faster. "Captain," called Lieutenant Park Soo-jin from her seat at the communications panel, "we're getting a message from the station. They want us to dock at bay number 7. Jinho turned away from the window and nodded. "Tell them, we understand. We'll be there in 20 minutes. Behind him, the other members of the human team were getting ready for the most important meeting in human history. Dr. Kim Min-soo sat at a table covered with translation devices, checking each one carefully. These machines would help the humans talk to the alien species, turning their words into sounds and meanings that the aliens could understand. Ambassador Choi Hai-jin stood near another table, looking at the gifts humanity had brought. There were small metal containers holding samples of Earth's newest medical technology, tiny robots that could heal wounds and fight diseases. Next to them sat data storage devices containing the plans for fusion reactors that could power entire cities. There were also art pieces from Earth, music recordings, and books translated into the common galactic language. "Are you nervous?" Dr. Kim asked Ambassador Choi as he finished his equipment checks. Choi smiled, but Jinho could see worry in her eyes. "A little. We've been preparing for this day for 30 years. Everything depends on the next few hours." The Concordia had traveled for 6 months to reach this place. Earth's government had spent decades getting ready for this moment. Scientists had worked day and night to perfect their translation systems. Diplomats had studied every piece of information they could find about the 12 alien species that ruled the galaxy. The Galactic Council had been in control of this part of space for 3,000 years. 12 different alien races worked together to keep peace between the hundreds of worlds under their protection. They had advanced technology, ancient wisdom, and power that humans could barely imagine. "Captain, we're approaching the docking bay," reported the ship's pilot, Lieutenant Bae Minho. Jinho looked out the window again. The docking bay was huge, with mechanical arms reaching out to guide their ship into position. Other alien vessels were docked nearby. Some looked like giant crystals, others were shaped like sea creatures from Earth's oceans, and some had forms that hurt to look at directly. "Remember everyone," Jinho said to his team, "we're not just representing ourselves today, we're speaking for all of humanity. Our children and their children will live with whatever happens in that meeting room." The ship settled into the docking bay with a gentle bump. Air hissed as the station's atmosphere mixed with the ship's. Green lights appeared on the control panels, showing that it was safe to open the doors and step outside. Dr. Kim stood up and gathered his translation equipment. "The devices are all working perfectly. We should be able to understand anything they say to us." Ambassador Choi picked up the case containing Earth's formal request to join the Galactic Council. Inside were documents explaining human history, culture, and technology. There were also video messages from world leaders, scientists, artists, and ordinary people from every continent on Earth. "What do you think they'll be like?" asked Lieutenant Park as she prepared to leave the ship. "Different from us," Jinho replied. "But I hope we can find common ground. All intelligent species must want similar things: safety for their families, food, shelter, a chance to grow and learn." The team walked through the ship's corridors toward the exit. Each person carried something important: equipment, gifts, or documents. Their footsteps echoed in the metal hallways. As they reached the door leading to the station, Jinho stopped and looked at each member of his team. These people had trained for years for this moment. They were the best humanity had to offer: smart, brave, and hopeful about the future. "Whatever happens," he said, "we go in there with open hands and open hearts. We have so much to offer them, and so much to learn from them. Today, humanity joins the galactic community." The door opened with a soft sound. Cool air from the alien station flowed into the ship, carrying strange smells and distant sounds. Jinho took a deep breath and stepped forward into the unknown. Behind him, his team followed, carrying humanity's hopes and dreams into a larger universe. They had no idea that in just a few short hours, those hopes would be crushed, and humanity would learn that not everyone in the galaxy wanted new friends. The presentation hall was the largest room Jinho had ever seen. The ceiling stretched so high above them that it disappeared into darkness. Strange lights floated in the air without any wires or supports, casting colorful shadows on the walls. Around the room, 12 enormous seats were arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different alien species. Ambassador Choi stood in the center of the circle, her voice echoing as she spoke into the translation device. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, humanity comes before you today with open hearts and eager minds." Jinho watched from his position near the wall as the aliens listened to her words. Some of the council members looked like giant insects. With too many arms, others appeared to be made of living crystal that sparkled in the floating lights. One species looked almost like humans, except their skin was blue, and they had no hair anywhere on their bodies. We bring gifts of friendship, Choi continued, gesturing toward the table where Dr. Kim had arranged their offerings. Our medical technology can heal wounds that have never been healed before. Our fusion reactors can provide clean energy for 1,000 years. We offer all of this freely, asking only for the chance to learn and grow alongside you. The translation devices hummed softly as her words were changed into the languages of 12 different worlds. Some of the aliens made clicking sounds, others hummed like musical instruments, and a few spoke in voices so deep that Jinho felt them in his chest rather than heard them with his ears. Dr. Kim stepped forward and activated one of the medical devices. A small hologram appeared in the air, showing how the tiny robots could repair damaged tissue and fight diseases. These nanobots have eliminated cancer on our world, he explained. We believe they could help your people as well. Lieutenant Park displayed the fusion reactor plans on a floating screen. The technical drawings showed how the reactors could power entire cities without creating any dangerous waste. This technology could transform energy production across the galaxy, she said hopefully. For several long minutes, the aliens spoke among themselves in their strange languages. Jinho tried to read their expressions, but their faces were so different from human faces that he could not tell what they were thinking. Some had no faces at all, just smooth surfaces where eyes and mouths should be. Finally, one of the aliens rose from his seat. He was taller than any human, with 6 arms and skin that looked like polished metal. When he spoke, his voice came through the translators as cold and harsh. I am High Arbiter Velther of the Dominion Council, he announced. We have heard your words and examined your offerings. Jinho felt his heart speed up. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. Humanity was about to join the galactic community. The species you call human represents a danger to the stability of our civilization. Velthar continued. Your kind evolved on a world of chaos and violence. You do not understand order. You do not respect hierarchy. You form emotional bonds with creatures that are not your own species. Ambassador Choi stepped forward, confusion clear on her face. Honored Arbiter, we see these traits as strengths. Our ability to adapt and form friendships across species lines could help bring the galaxy closer together. That is exactly why you are dangerous, Velthar replied, his 6 arms moving in. What might have been anger? For 3,000 years, we have maintained peace through proper structure. Each species knows its place. Each world follows the rules. You would destroy this with your chaotic thinking. Dr. Kim moved closer to Jinho, his face pale with shock. They're rejecting us because we believe in equality, he whispered. Velthar raised one of his metallic arms, and the room fell completely silent. The council has made its decision. The human species will be confined to your birth system. A quantum blockade will prevent any of your ships from leaving. Any attempt to expand beyond your boundaries will result in corrective action. The words hit Jinho like physical blows. After all their preparation, all their hopes, the aliens were not just rejecting humanity's friendship, they were imprisoning the entire human race. You cannot be serious, Ambassador Choi said, her voice shaking. You would cage an entire species simply for wanting to explore and make friends. We are showing great mercy. Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a giant flower with too many petals. Other disruptive species have received harsher treatment. You should be grateful we allow you to live. Lieutenant Park stepped forward, anger replacing her earlier nervousness. This is not justice. This is tyranny. This is order, Velthar replied coldly. You have 72 hours to return to your world and inform your government of our decision. No appeals will be heard. No further negotiations will take place. This audience is finished. The floating lights began to dim, and the alien council members started leaving their seats. Some walked through doors that appeared in the walls. Others simply vanished like smoke. Jinho stood frozen in place, unable to believe what had just happened. They had come offering friendship and cooperation. They had brought their best technology, their finest art, their hopes for the future, and the galaxy had slapped their outstretched hand away. As they gathered their unused gifts and walked back toward their ship, Jinho realized that humanity had just learned a terrible lesson. In this universe, good intentions meant nothing. Power was the only language the galaxy understood. The door to their ship closed behind them with a sound like a prison cell locking shut. 3 years had passed since the quantum blockade sealed Earth's solar system like an invisible prison. President Yoon Do-sam stood in the underground communication center beneath Seoul, watching technicians send another message into the darkness of space. The message would travel to the edges of their solar system and then simply disappear, stopped by the alien barrier that surrounded them. Any response from the council? She asked Director Han Woojin, who ran Earth's diplomatic efforts. Shook his head sadly. Nothing, Madam President. We've sent over 1,000 messages in 3 years. Requests for meetings, offers of tribute, even agreements to accept limited membership. They ignore everything we send. The communication center hummed with activity as workers tried different approaches. Some sent messages in mathematical languages, thinking perhaps the aliens would respond to pure science. Others broadcast Earth's music and art, hoping to touch whatever hearts the aliens might have. Nothing worked. What about the outer colonies? President Yoon asked. Any word from Mars or the mining stations? Captain Kong Soyoung, who had commanded 3 failed attempts to break through the blockade, stepped forward. Her face was tired and lined with stress. We lost 2 more ships this week, Madam President, the Explorer and the New Dawn. They were carrying colonists to Proxima Centauri when the blockade destroyed them. The president closed her eyes, feeling the weight of each lost life. Hundreds of humans had died trying to leave their solar system. Each ship that approached the invisible barrier was hit by energy weapons that turned them into dust in seconds. Show me the latest attempt, she said. Quietly. Captain Kong activated a holographic display that showed their solar system from above. Red dots marked where ships had been destroyed trying to escape. The dots formed a perfect sphere around the sun, showing exactly where the alien barrier began. The blockade is getting stronger, Kong explained. At first, our ships could get close to the barrier before being destroyed. Now they're destroyed the moment they try to leave Jupiter's orbit. The aliens are tightening their grip. Dr. Song Yuna, Earth's leading expert on alien technology, stepped out of the shadows. She had been studying every piece of information they could gather about the Galactic Council, trying to understand why humanity had been rejected so completely. I've been analyzing the communications we intercepted during our visit to Nexus Prime, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I think I understand why they fear us so much. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. Dr. Song had been working day and night for 3 years, trying to find some way to communicate with their captors. They call it pack bonding syndrome, she continued. Humans have a unique ability to form emotional connections with other species. We see aliens as potential friends, not as superior or inferior beings. This terrifies the Council. Director Han frowned. Why would friendship terrify them? Because their entire civilization is built on rigid hierarchy, Dr. Song explained. Each species has its place in their system. Some are rulers, others are workers, some are slaves. They maintain order by making sure everyone knows their rank and stays in it. She activated her own holographic display, showing the structure of Galactic Council society. At the top were the 12 ruling species, followed by hundreds of client species arranged in strict order of importance. Humans don't think this way, Dr. Song continued. When we meet someone, we don't automatically assume they're above or below us. We try to understand them as individuals. To the Council, this way of thinking is literally infectious. Captain Kong stared at the display. You're saying they imprisoned us because we believe in treating people as equals? Worse than that, Dr. Song said, her voice growing even quieter. I found evidence of other species that faced similar situations. The Council calls them disruptive elements that had to be removed for the good of galactic stability. President Yoon felt ice form in her stomach. Removed, what does that mean? Dr. Song pulled up another set of data. Over the past 5,000 years, the Council has encountered 47 species they classified as disruptive. Official records say these species were destroyed by natural disasters, asteroids, solar flares, disease outbreaks, but you don't believe that, Han said. The mathematical probability is impossible, Dr. Song replied. 47 species, all destroyed by random disasters shortly after making contact with the Council. No, these weren't accidents. The Council eliminated them. The room fell completely silent. Everyone understood what Dr. Song was telling them. Humanity wasn't just imprisoned, they were marked for extinction. How long do we have? President Yoon asked. Unknown, Dr. Song replied. The Council seems to prefer waiting. They let imprisoned species struggle for a few years, hoping they'll accept their fate. When that doesn't work, they arrange an accident. Captain Kong slammed her fist on the table. We won't go quietly. We can't fight their blockade, but we can prepare for whatever comes next. What do you mean? Director Han asked. I mean we stop sending diplomatic messages, Kong replied. We stop begging for mercy. We start planning for war. President Yoon looked around the room at the faces of her advisors. 3 years ago, they had been optimistic diplomats hoping to join a galactic community. Now they were prisoners planning their escape. Give the order, she said finally. No more messages to the Council. From now on, we prepare to fight for our freedom. The communications center fell silent as the last diplomatic transmission was canceled. Humanity had finished asking for permission to exist. Now they would take it. 5 years had passed since the last diplomatic message left Earth. The silence from humanity worried some members of the Galactic Council, but High Arbiter Velthar was pleased. In his Crystal Palace on Nexus Prime, he told his advisors that the human problem had been solved through patience and firmness. See how quiet they have become, he said to the other council members during their monthly meeting. No more desperate messages begging for freedom. No more attempts to break through our blockade. they have finally accepted their place. But Velthor was wrong. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, in hidden factories and secret laboratories, humanity had been preparing for war. They had not accepted anything. They had simply stopped talking and started working. Colonel Lim Teho stood in the briefing room aboard the stealth ship Defiance, hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Mars. Around him sat the commanders of humanity's new fleet ships. Built in secret, over 5 years of desperate preparation. Intelligence reports confirm what we suspected, he told the assembled officers. The Council's power is based on very old technology that they barely understand anymore. They have been the rulers for so long that they stopped improving their weapons and ships. Major Jung Yoon-ji, who had spent 3 years studying captured alien technology from destroyed human ships, pointed to holographic displays showing Council vessels. Their ships are enormous but slow. They rely on energy shields that take several seconds to adjust to new threats. Most importantly, they haven't fought a real war in over 1,000 years. The room was filled with Earth's best military minds. These men and women had studied every piece of information about the 12 Council species, learning their weaknesses and how to exploit them. What about their numbers? Asked Captain Bae Minho, the younger brother of Jinho, who had joined the military after the blockade began. They control hundreds of worlds. We're just one planet. Admiral Oh Sung-ho, the overall commander of humanity's hidden fleet, stood up to address this concern. Numbers don't matter if the enemy can't use them effectively. Our intelligence shows that most Council species have become soft and lazy. They depend on automated systems and ancient weapons that haven't been updated in centuries. The Admiral activated a 3-dimensional map showing the 12 Council home worlds. Each planet was marked with detailed information about its defenses, population, and strategic importance. We won't try to conquer them, he continued. We're going to do something they won't expect. We're going to free them. Captain Lee Soo-jin, who had volunteered for the most dangerous reconnaissance missions, leaned forward. Free them. I thought we were fighting for our own freedom. We are, Admiral Oh replied, but Dr. Song's research has revealed something important. The Council doesn't just oppress humans, they control hundreds of younger species who are forced to serve them. Many of these species would rebel if they thought they had a chance to win. The holographic display changed to show intercepted communications from across the galaxy. Messages of discontent from species forced to mine dangerous materials for the Council. Reports of young aliens who questioned why they had to serve masters they had never chosen. Colonel Lim pointed to specific star systems on the map. These are our primary targets. Not the Council's homeworlds, but their military bases and communication centers. We hit them all at the same time, before they can coordinate a response. What about the blockade around our solar system? Asked Major Jung. How do we get our ships past their sensors? Captain Park Dongwoo, who had designed humanity's new stealth technology, smiled for the first time in months. We've learned to hide from their scanners. Our ships are smaller and use different energy signatures than they expect. We can slip past their detection systems. The stealth technology was based on studying the quantum blockade itself. Human scientists had spent years analyzing how the alien barrier worked, eventually learning to create ships that could pass through it undetected. Remember, Admiral Oh said as the briefing continued, we're not trying to become the new Council. We don't want to rule anyone. We want to destroy the Council's ability to control others and give every species the right to choose their own path. Captain Bae looked at the mission schedules displayed on the wall. When do we strike? In 72 hours, the Admiral replied. The same amount of time they gave us to accept our imprisonment. We've prepared for 5 years. Our ships are ready, our weapons are tested, and our crews are trained. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you slap away an offered hand. The officers began filing out of the briefing room, each one carrying orders for their specific mission. Some would strike at military installations, others would target communication networks, and a few would broadcast the truth about the Council's crimes to every world in the galaxy. As the room emptied, Admiral Oh stood alone, looking at the star map. 5 years ago, humanity had approached the Council with open hands and hopeful hearts. They had been rejected, imprisoned, and marked for extinction. Now those open hands had become closed fists, and the galaxy was about to learn what human determination could accomplish when pushed to its limits. The Council had created their own worst enemy by turning friends into fighters. The war for freedom was about to begin. The attack began at exactly the same moment across 12 different star systems. Human ships appeared from nowhere, their stealth technology making them invisible until they were already firing their weapons. The Galactic Council's ancient warning systems, designed to detect massive invasion fleets, completely missed the small, fast human vessels. Admiral Lee Jinho stood on the bridge of his flagship Retribution, watching as his weapons tore through the shields of a Council military station. The alien defenses were exactly as weak as their intelligence had predicted. Energy barriers that had protected the station for centuries flickered and died under the rapid-fire assault of human plasma cannons. Boarding teams away, reported Captain Nam Ji-won from her position at the tactical station. Resistance is minimal. The station's crew is surrendering without a fight. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human forces struck at the heart of Council power. The aliens had grown so comfortable in their dominance that they had forgotten how to fight. Their massive ships moved too slowly to target the swift human vessels, and their weapons took too long to charge and fire. The Council's central communication hub, Major Jung Yoonji led a team of specialists in capturing the alien broadcast systems. Within minutes, they had taken control of the networks that connected every world in the galaxy. Broadcasting now, she reported to Admiral Gin-ho. Every planet in Council space is receiving our transmission. The message was simple but devastating. Video evidence of the Council's crimes against the 47 extinct species. Recordings of their discussions about eliminating humanity. Proof that the so-called natural disasters that had destroyed entire civilizations were actually planned genocides. On hundreds of worlds, younger species who had lived under Council rule for generations watched in shock as the truth was revealed. The Galactic Council was not the benevolent protector they claimed to be. They were tyrants who destroyed anyone who threatened their power. High Arbiter Velther sat in his command center on Nexus Prime, watching his empire crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Military bases destroyed. Communication networks captured. Entire star systems declaring independence from Council rule. How is this possible? He demanded of his advisors. Humans are a primitive species trapped in their own solar system. They have no advanced technology, no military experience. The reports are confirmed. His chief military advisor reported. Human forces have crippled our defensive capabilities in 12 systems simultaneously. They're using tactics we've never seen before. Velther's 6 arms trembled with rage and fear. Activate the emergency protocols. Call back all our forces. We'll crush this rebellion before it spreads further. But it was already too late. The human broadcasts had done their work. Across the galaxy, oppressed species were rising up against their council overlords. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained order for millennia was collapsing as younger civilizations realized they outnumbered their oppressors by billions to one. Admiral Ginha's fleet approached Nexus Prime itself. The seat of council power, the massive space station that had seemed so impressive 5 years ago, now looked like what it really was, an ancient relic, defended by obsolete weapons and complacent guards. Sir, reported Captain Bei Minho from the scanner station, we're detecting movement from the station's docking bays. Looks like they're trying to evacuate. Not happening, Ginho replied coldly, disable their ships. We're going aboard. The human assault on Nexus Prime was swift and precise. Boarding pods launched from the human ships, cutting through the station's hull like hot knives through paper. Human soldiers, trained in the harsh conditions of Earth's most dangerous environments, moved through the alien corridors with deadly efficiency. Within an hour, Admiral Ginho stood in the same chamber where humanity had been rejected and condemned 5 years earlier. But now the positions were reversed. High Arbiter Velther knelt before him, his metallic skin dull with defeat. We offered our hand in friendship, Ginho said quietly, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. We came to you with gifts and hope. We wanted to learn from you and share what we had learned. Velther's 6 eyes looked up at the human admiral. Your species was dangerous. You would have destroyed our order. You were right, Ginho replied. We have destroyed your order. But not because we're chaotic or violent. We destroyed it because it was built on lies and murder. The admiral gestured to the screens around the chamber, which now showed scenes from across the galaxy. Former council worlds were celebrating their freedom. Species that had been enslaved for generations were choosing their own governments. The rigid hierarchy that had controlled the galaxy was gone forever. This could have been avoided, Ginho continued. If you had welcomed us as equals instead of trying to cage us like animals, we could have worked together. Your knowledge and our adaptability could have created something beautiful. What happens now? Velther asked. Now you face the justice you denied to 47 extinct species, Ginho replied. But unlike you, we believe in mercy. You'll be tried for your crimes, not simply eliminated. 3 months later, President Yoon stood in the assembly hall of the new Free Species Alliance. Through the massive windows, she could see ships from dozens of worlds. Former council subjects, who had chosen to work together as equals rather than submit to new masters, into stations' educational centers. Human children played alongside young aliens from across the galaxy. The pack-bonding behavior that had so terrified the council was spreading, but it brought friendship and cooperation instead of chaos. Humanity's hand was open once again, offered in friendship to any who would take it. But now they were strong, enough to keep it safe from those who would slap it away.